Dude, so you have one of the craziest stories. Like, startup land is all about, frankly, taking punches to the face, but like some punches I think hurt a lot more than others. I went through like a near acquisition, so I have some sense of what you might gone through, but yours was on like a, two orders of magnitude, kind of bigger scale, right? So you started, Wyre, you ran it for like 10 years. You crossed like $90 million in run rate, had a $1.5 billion acquisition that was announced and like live, like ready to go. Like you can look it up still today. And then it all fell apart because, it got announced kind of like mid 22. And then that's when, it was a broad-based winter, like a macro winter, but obviously crypto got hit exceptionally hard. So I have really bad news for you. The show actually now costs money. So I'm going to need you to wire $10,000 to my account if you want to keep listening. I'm kidding. I just need a review. Now you thought you had to pay. It doesn't look so bad, right? All you have to do is take your phone out, hit a couple buttons, hit 5 stars, and you're done. Thank you. Well, Yanni, welcome to the episode, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Let's start at the beginning. I think, honestly, my first question, I'm just looking up here. I was looking at the, now Bitcoin's like over $1 trillion market cap. So I'm looking at this chart more and more, just seeing what I missed out on. And dude, when you're starting in like 2013, the market cap is like 150 million for Bitcoin. Now it's 1.5 trillion. It's 10,000x, which is just insane. My question to you is like, to start in Web3 that early, like, dude, what did you see that even made you want to do anything in this space? Like, it was basically like this weird side fringe project thing going on. So to build a startup on it, I mean, it takes a lot of kind of foresight.
Yeah, no, so it wasn't even Web3 back there. It was just Bitcoin. And there is like, it's just like literally just Bitcoin. And, in 2012, when I met my co-founder, both he and I got into Bitcoin in different ways. So I found out about Bitcoin through my last company I worked for. I used to work for a large data encryption company called SafeNet. They hire more cryptographers than the US government, like in the entire world. And I was doing a lot of work for them, mostly on the website. For them in like marketing and web development on that sort of side, and found out about Bitcoin there. They posted something in the intranet in their like Microsoft Access, like internet portal of the Bitcoin white paper. And usually no one comments on anything in there, right? They post some links like once a month, but like every once in a while you get one post. And then somebody posted the Bitcoin white paper in there, and there were like 300 comments in there. On this, like the intranet for this, my last company. I'm like, all right, this has got to be something interesting. Like I have to read about this. And, I read about the Bitcoin white paper there. Or like I read the first page. I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't really care. Like this is not interesting. But on the Bitcoin white paper, there was bitcoin.org. And I went on bitcoin.org and there was this weird Bitcoin forum of just like the weirdest, like fringe people just talking about this currency and like it was like a really interesting community. And I was super big into like online meme groups back in the day, on Facebook groups. I had like, we were doing like a lot on just like building communities online when it was on Facebook pages back in 2011, 2012. And I was doing a lot there. And I was like super fascinated about the internet in general and like super fascinated about, different Reddit channels and different forums. And I found this community. I just like signed up and I just like kept posting in there. Didn't buy any Bitcoin. I should have probably bought more Bitcoin then. But it was like an interesting community. And when I met my co-founder, he was like, just like fascinated about this. And I'm like, oh, wow, we're like, we share this like similarity there. But the first thing that we did was like nothing related to Bitcoin. We were just like, we met at a hacker house in San Francisco in 2012 and we just started launching different products and we were like every day was like a different idea. Like we went through, the first idea was like we dressed up as superheroes and picked up people's laundry, and we did this like
no way, get out of here. I need to learn more about that. What do you mean?
Yeah, your hero delivery. There's like a lot of articles written about this. It blew up like, and the fascinating thing about that was like we just like dressed up as superheroes, and the only reason people ordered us is because like the parents' kids would like get to see Spider-Man. Like pick up like a laundry or something like that. So
how'd you anyways that? Like I know this is about Wyre, but like what's the origin story? How do you decide like, dude, we should show up as Spider-Man?
So we met in a hacker house, which was like basically an orphanage with Wi-Fi in San Francisco, bunch of bunk beds, like a lot of people travel and just stay in this hacker house. And like try to figure out what to do. Some people are fundraising, some people are launching companies, some people are like, working in tech, trying to figure out the next step. So we met in a hacker house. And then after that, I was like, wait, this guy's like making like $20,000 a month, just like selling us like beds, like bunk beds in this like sublease place. I'm like, we should just be doing this. So I ended up starting my own hacker house. And then I was like, all right, I could like resign and like start working on a project with Michael, and we have some income coming in. So we did that.
Oh, so you quit that job where you saw the white paper and you're just like doing the hacker house thing.
Yeah, we quit. I quit pretty fast. They moved me out here to San Francisco for a project, and pretty quick, like within a month, I quit. I was like, "This is like, why would I be doing? This is like, I found my people. This is like what I need to be doing." Like I was doing some startups in Baltimore, but the scene in Baltimore was completely different than San Francisco, and I never found my community of like people that think similarly. And when I moved to SF, I was like, "Oh my god, everyone's like me. Like everyone's like thinking about ideas, like building companies. This is like super cool."
I think, dude, and just as a quick tangent, like, that's the magic of these places, right? Like I went to visit a friend of mine who was a creator. This is many years ago. It was like 2016, and he was in LA, and the whole building was just, all they were doing was like YouTube. Like you walk into anybody's condo, they all know each other. You walk into a condo, there's cameras going, they've got a scene happening. Like this is just a thing, right? And SF is like that, but for building, right? Like you go and there's a hacker house and everybody's just like, I mean, some are going to make it, some aren't going to make it, but everybody's kind of in that zone.
That time period was really special in San Francisco as well. You almost like the 2012 to 2015 era of like San Francisco was really, really special. It's kind of like tamed down a little bit in terms of like, you don't really find like these hacker houses anymore. A, because they're illegal, massively illegal. You can't like fit 20 people in a bedroom anymore. And there's like a lot of rules, or they're cutting that down. Airbnb is not allowing that anymore. But there are a lot of these like weird makeshift like hostels for entrepreneurs. And we launched one. It was just like a unique time period for San Francisco, like a subgenre of San Francisco as well. But we were just doing a bunch of ideas. Like we always we had like the first version of Snapcard, which was Wyre before we rebranded in 2016. It was called Snapcard. But the first version of Snapcard was like, hey, it was like a browser extension that allowed people to buy anything on the internet using their browser shopping cart. So we built this like shopping cart that sat on the browser, and you could like add different products and all throughout every single website, and then like press one click and then like literally buy everything through your your browser. So like imagine like shopping across like Amazon and all these different platforms. You just add it into your shopping cart. You press one button.
Did you need to integrate did you need to add these merchants, or it just worked?
It was an extension. So like the consumer would just like add it into the shopping.
It sounds like Bolt before Bolt, and I don't mean to foreshadow, but
yeah, it was like a combination of Bolt and like what is that? Like coupon saving paper, like Honey.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Bolt Honey. But the cool thing about that is that you didn't have to use the payment methods that were inside the like Amazon's only preferred payment method. So we just added a lot of different payment methods, and one of the payment methods was Bitcoin back in 2012.
And how, by the way, like how did that work? Like I add stuff from Amazon and from whatever Walmart, let's just say, into my Snapcart shopping cart, and then when I click buy, you kind of go into those sites and buy it for me, or what was the method?
Absolutely. So we would like literally use my personal credit card at that time and just like buy from a store and drop ship it over to the user, and then I'd get like 2% cash back on our card, which is a kind of a revenue model, and then we'd like have some fees as well on the transaction, and there was like some like this was even before Affirm. It was like you could put it on your shop cart and have installment plans on like, hey, I want to buy like this thing. And this is like, we were like way ahead of it. Like we were doing a lot of stuff. I remember, yeah, it was, if we would have stuck with that, it would have been a really big idea. Like, I think that would have
been. You had like all the stuff. Like you had the Affirm plus the Honey plus there's a lot of billions in there.
There was like a lot of benefits to using the browser shopping cart and like all the payment methods. So if you're like buying from, you could use your local payment method and shop from Amazon in the US and get the job shipped in Mexico or something like that. So like using websites across borders, like able to facilitate transactions. But one of the payment methods that we added was Bitcoin. And just because we both like Bitcoin, it wasn't like we both enjoyed Bitcoin for different reasons. And we added Bitcoin as a payment method. We posted this when we launched into the Bitcoin Reddit forum, and it just like day one just blew up. They're like, you can now use Bitcoin in 2012 to buy anything on the internet, which is unheard of. Like no one Like you couldn't buy anything using your Bitcoins back then. So once we found this like weird community that was like, okay, die hard for like using this product, we just went all in on that and just took credit card
Plus, Bitcoin was almost like your eBay for PayPal. Like that was like the community that really, like PayPal blew up because like the eBay sellers or buyers or whatever loved it, loved to use it there. They tried a bunch of other things, nothing took off. For you, that was like the community, because it's true for them, it's a 0 to 1. For everybody else, it's kind of like, okay, it's convenient. But for the people that are Bitcoin believers, you go from basically like not really being able to use it except on these fringe websites to it works anywhere, which is very much a 0 to 1 event.
Yeah, and that flywheel just like blew up like day one, and people were die hard. Like we had the worst UI. Like it was literally me, like Microsoft Paint, just like UI, like really really bad UI. But people were going out of their way to try to use their Bitcoin to buy things on the internet, and that just like completely blew up. And we were like super, and that's all we did. And we
Wait, how did that work? Like just like mechanically for Bitcoin, did you have to create like a wallet, or did people connect there? Like I don't even know what infrastructure there was back then, but how do people load their Bitcoin onto like your extension? You know what I mean?
we were able to grab everything that's in a shopping cart and put it into a item within your browser shopping cart. So that was already built out. We spent a little bit of time building like, hey, taking everything that's inside like an Amazon shopping cart and adding it to like your browser shopping cart, your Snapcard extension. And then once it's there, then we created Bitcoin invoices. So BitPay was around then as well. We had big partnership. I think we were the largest client to BitPay back then. We would just create the invoice. Somebody would send their Bitcoin into BitPay. We would receive the Bitcoin and convert it into US dollars. I would use my credit card in the back end. Everyone thought it was magic in the back end, but it was literally just Michael and I going into the websites and buying the products. Like
manually, like you just like click, buy, put the right address in.
And everyone thought, oh, there's like, they built some like mechanical Turk on this. It was literally just Michael, myself, and our first employee. All he did was, he wasn't an engineer. Our first employee was literally somebody to just process orders. Like we had an admin panel with like order number 1. You'd go in, use my credit card, buy the product, and ship it out. And we do that.
Did you have to do that? Because people are used to like you click buy and the order's like kind of done.
Like we would do it within 24 to 48 hours. Like we'd do it. Like so we would lock in the price, and like so we'd receive the cash the next day. But we were going through that blew up. I mean, we were doing like $300,000 to $400,000 a day through my credit card. A lot of the work that I was doing was like literally making sure Amex wasn't like stopping us. Like
how did you like okay, 340,000, like if each transaction is like, let's say $300, like that's 1,000 transactions. Like how do you even manually go through that? That's a lot of time. No,
it was a lot. But the average transaction, the purchase, like the car, it was a lot higher. People were spending like thousands of dollars, like buying back then mining chips. A lot of people that had Bitcoin wanted to buy more Bitcoin, so they were like trying to buy a lot of like mining chips. We were selling a lot of sex products as well. Like there was a big our number one the number one product that we were selling was the fleshlight for sure.
No way.
Which
because it's just like, I guess the thing is like, what would Bitcoin people that are fringe Bitcoin people, like what are they buying? And fleshlights and crypto mining products.
It was a lot of that. A lot of like high end goods like Prada, stuff like that. And but the average purchase price was pretty high. And we were charged like, we made some money on the exchange rate, and then we also made money on a service fee. So on every transaction, and then made money on cash back. So we charged 2%. We made some money on the exchange rate, and then we also made money on the 2% cash back that we got from the card. So,
and it's a self-funded idea, or you guys are just doing this kind of bootstrap at that point?
We bootstrapped it for the first bit, and then we launched it on Reddit, and then immediately reached out to Boost. They were one of the only like crypto accelerators at that point. And then we got into the Boost VC program.
How much into the journey did that happen? What, how many months?
All from within like a month after launching. It wasn't we, and then all we were doing during Boost was literally processing orders. Like we built some products, like we launched Canada, we like set up a bank account there and did a bunch of stuff, but no one knew anything about Bitcoin back then. It was like, I'd just go to Canada and be like, hey, we have this Bitcoin company. They're like, cool. You're like a tech company, and they'll just give you bank accounts. And it was like, you could literally set up banking infrastructure wasn't a problem. at that at that point. And then 2 years later, it starts becoming a massive problem. But that was the first version. That's how we got that. I got into Bitcoin. And that's like the first version of Snapcard. And the but that's a lot more stories after that. But that's the
Well, yeah, like I guess what comes, like, do you just keep? Well, I guess my first question is, because this is where my mind goes, like, hey, try to automate. No, like, is that did you try to do that? Was it just not like really feasible, or did you go a different direction?
Yeah, so that was like, so 2012, 2013 was a bull market. If you remember, that was like one of the first big bull markets. So Bitcoin price went from like 50 to 1,000. And so we were getting a lot of orders. But then in 2014, there was our first Bitcoin bear market where the price went back down to like 300 a coin or something like that. And the problem with this business was like, it just gets affected massively when Bitcoin's about at 200. No one's suspended.
So wait, you were running like this version of Wyre Snapcard. You were running for like 2 years,
We were running this for a year and a half. Yeah.
year and a half, and the whole time it's manual, or did you automate some of like the order processing piece?
We were automating some of the processing, but the more of the features that we launched was like, let's launch different countries. So like take in credit cards from a different area, or like take in like different websites that we can use our launching different countries. And that usually meant like just setting up a bank account to receive local CAD or something like that, or local euro. So that's a lot of the features that we launched. We also launched Snapcard Black, which was like an exclusive program where if you wanted to buy some people wanted to buy real estate with their Bitcoin, and we were like facilitating real estate transactions as well. So like some months we were like sell like big warehouse facilities so people can set up mining rigs. And
How did and what was the back end of that? Like, then I'm assuming you have to wire. I'm assuming it wasn't credit card.
Yeah, they just like send over the Bitcoin. We would convert it into cash. We would send a wire over to the bank, and that's it. And like we just be facilitating the wire in. But we did a lot of those, and that's like a good portion of both my co-founder and I. Bitcoin came from like tips that we got for those sort of transactions. So if somebody was sending like a few tens of thousands of Bitcoins back then, they'll shoot us like a little bit of Bitcoin to like as a tip there.
Yeah, like here's 10 Bitcoin. Where
it just like it's like thanks for my $1 million purchase. We'll send you $100 worth of Bitcoin. We're like, thank you very much.
the key was to hold it. Like, I've got friends who had, like, I'm the dumbest one because I just didn't buy it. But like, I've got friends who did have it, and then they bought socks with it, they bought pizza with it. As you know, like that just happened all the time.
I'm more in that camp too. I still have some Bitcoin, but I used to have a lot more. But over the years, like we didn't pay ourselves salary until like 2016. So we were just like ramming through, like trying to live, figure it out. But it took us a really long time to start paying our salary out of principle for both of us. But I was just living out Bitcoin for a really long time. We used to have poker games, $1 or one Bitcoin poker games, the most expensive poker game. But it just died thinking about it. Yeah.
And so in that year and a half that you're running this business, like at peak, how big was it? Let's say like transaction volume wise or revenue wise.
So we transaction volume wise, it was like what I mentioned, like 300 to 400K a month, and then some months we have like crazy months if we're doing like a real estate transaction or two, and through the Snapcard Black program. But that outside of that, we we're making like hundreds of thousands, sub $1 million in revenue per year.
Yeah, a year. Yeah, because obviously the margins and the fees and all that stuff are kind of thin. Okay, cool. And so you're doing that, and then you were mentioning the first bear market.
Yeah, the first bear market comes along and volumes decrease massively. We kind of at that point we saw the writing on the wall a little bit as well, in the sense that this isn't like the business is cool, but like if Bitcoin, we believe that Bitcoin's gonna be the dominant currency. And if that happens, then every single website will accept Bitcoin at some point, right? Meaning that they won't need to use this like kind of like stopgap solution.
Yeah, because it's almost a hack. Exactly. It's like a bridge too. But yeah, okay.
So we were like, okay, cool. Well, you have all this data of like where Bitcoiners shop. Why don't we start building a Bitcoin payment processor and then go to the merchants and then like have them accept Bitcoin directly? So instead of like selling, like build a BitPay essentially. So that was the second version of Snapcard, and we did that for a few years. We actually
And what was the difference? Yeah, like so if BitPay's already there and you're leveraging it, what did you do that they weren't doing, or was it just like a direct competitor?
Yeah, direct competitor. They were just like there's a one option at that point. They were moving really slow. We thought we could build a better solution, and we did. We built a really good Bitcoin payment processor.
Was that already? Did you call the name that was Wyre? That this version you're
No, that was called Snapcard still. So that was all Snapcard. So that was like so 2012, 2013 was the bookmarklet, and then we moved 2014 to 2015. We built the merchant payment processor, and we did some cool things. We had our POS system on a tablet, and we like went to merchants and gave them free tablet to accept Bitcoin. So we had more merchants in San Francisco accepting Bitcoin than any other city in the world, all through Snapcard's like POS terminal. But once again, that was still like you needed a reason to spend your Bitcoins to do that. So we like quickly realized that like we built this infrastructure, got a lot of merchants, but like no one was using the Bitcoins to actually buy anything. So we were like not making any revenue. And then after that, we pivoted. We had a client that was like, could we have the customers buy Bitcoin and then use the merchant payment processor? So we're like, okay, let's build a wallet and use the merchant payment process like an eBay, like a PayPal situation. So, and the thesis was like, these consumers want to buy Bitcoin. They don't want to sell their Bitcoin. So let's try to move to consumer side and help people buy Bitcoin. And there were like a few people there was like Mt. Gox, there's Coinbase, there's like early players. The crypto wallet market was really slim. So we ended up doing
2016 or so.
This is 2015.
15, okay.
Yeah, 2015 going into.
And this is, I'm not sure I fully get it. This is, you're still working with merchants, or are you going direct to consumer now in this play?
We never pivoted out of any business. Like we just kept every business as we went along. It slacked along. And that was just like a lot of lessons learned. And then in 2018, we made the decision to just wipe everything out. So it took us a really long time to do that. But we kept every single business. We had merchants like, we had customers on the extension. We had customers on the merchant payment processor. We didn't want to just rip them out. And then we built the wallet. And that wallet first was like the first trend where we saw a lot of traction.
But wallet was like that product was a direct consumer product?
Direct consumer product. We were helping
like come here to buy your Bitcoin or move your Bitcoin here, hold it here, like that kind of classic wallet service.
Exactly. So we built the wallet, very similar to Coinbase. We built the wallet. It was the third largest wallet in the US. It did really well. And the reason why it got so big was because we were the first crypto wallet that had an API released to the public, where you could use the API to actually like build so like Bitcoin ATMs could use our wallet infrastructure to like manage our Bitcoin ATMs. Like there's a lot of merchants that just needed Bitcoin wallet infrastructure that they didn't want to go out and build themselves. So we had a really nice API.
So like an ATM, like because that's the other type of business I remember crush. And I remember I had not a friend actually, this other founder that was in this game accelerator. Again, 2013, like I had no idea. And the guy's like, yeah, dude, I got these Bitcoin ATMs. And I'm just like, and people are like, dude, this guy's making so much money. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, but Bitcoin ATMs are... So we had big relationships with the Bitcoin ATMs, and we built APIs where they needed places where they can custody the money, right? They needed like actual like crypto wallets where
because you go into ATM, you put in like literally dollar bills or whatever, you get a Bitcoin, but where is that Bitcoin? And I guess some of them didn't want to build that, so then that's where you come in.
Yeah, exactly. So we provided the wallet infrastructure and then also the exchange rate. So somebody puts in dollars and they need we lock in the rate where, okay, cool, we'll like convert this one Bitcoin to some amount. And we make fees on that. So like all the crypto exchanges, all the wallet infrastructure. So we built APIs, and we're like one of the only companies in the US that had this like Bitcoin wallet infrastructure. So we grew pretty fast on our Bitcoin wallet. Not only we had a lot of consumers using the product, but we had a really nice API. That's like the number one reason why that product grew. And then as that product grew from like 2015 to 2016, we started adding different countries. We're like, okay, cool. Like,
and how big? Like, walk me through that growth. Like 2015, like by 20 in that year, you're talking about how much growth? You're talking about what?
In revenue, like I think we crossed our first million. Like in
a year or so.
Yeah, like we were doing over $1 million, like 1 to 3 million, somewhere around there, in 2016.
And is that the biggest? Were ATMs the biggest partner that really needed your API, or was there another kind of sector that really like loved this kind of API wallet?
The wallet infrastructure, there was like payout companies really liked it as well. So international payouts. So we were selling that. I mean, everyone's talking about stable coins, but we were doing payouts with Bitcoin back in 2015, 2016.
Like
Like,
money transfer, like cross-border payment stuff?
yeah, like the whole vision around stablecoins is like you could do small payments, right? You can send somebody a content creator that needs to wait to get like $30 out of Twitch right now every couple weeks. Instead of doing that, you can now pay them like $1 every day so they can receive some income instead of waiting for this mass payment because there's like a minimum fee that like the banks charge to actually send a payment to like a Twitch streamer that's in Venezuela or something like that, right? So like Bitcoin payments were really, really solid for we went all these marketplaces. We're like, hey, you have all these payments. It costs you X to do this. All your consumers can just receive Bitcoin and they could deal with it on their own with their local exchanges but they can receive cash immediately. Like they don't need to wait 10 days, pay all these fees. So we were like going all in on like cross-border payments marketplaces by using Bitcoin as a means of payouts back in 2015 and 2016. So we were, and that was like a big thing for us. Like we were working with like freelancer.com, which was like Australia, like before there was like a big like a freelancing community. And that was a big sector for us as well for the API. So like host the crypto into the account and then withdraw, exchange it back into local currency and withdraw out.
We have tens of thousands of people who have followed the show. Are you one of those people? You want to be a part of the group. You want to be a part of those tens of thousands of followers. So hit the follow button.
Okay, so that's 2016. So now you're on this. It's like you're doing like 1 to 3 billion in revenue, filling that pool.
Yeah, so 1 to 3 million in revenue, and as we started adding new countries to our like jurisdiction, we started realizing the pattern of people, buying Bitcoin here in the U.S. and then selling Bitcoin within the same wallet in pesos, like Mexican pesos. So using Bitcoin as a means to actually transfer money in pesos and then withdrawing pesos out in Mexico, all within their account. And we're like, oh, they're just literally using Bitcoin as a rails of money transfer. Why aren't they using like TransferWise or something like that? And then we came to the realization that it takes like, a week to receive pesos in TransferWise. There's like all these hidden fees and we could just like transfer the money using Bitcoin rails as money transfer. And we're like, this is incredible. Like this is a real use case where instead of like buying and selling crypto, like there's a real use case where we could build a massive business and like help money transfer you on Bitcoin rails. And then at that point, it was like Mike and I, my co-founder and I, we just went all in. We're like, this is incredible. We should just like focus on this. And we rebranded the whole company to Wyre. So we were called SnapGuard and money transfer wires like WYRE. And that's like where the brand came from. And then at that point around we grew that from 2016 to 2018 and, got it to maybe like 5 million in revenue.
And this is still like kind of boots because you did the accelerator, I assume. Like how much did you raise, let's say, in this entire time?
It like maybe 7 million in different parts. Like every pivot, like we were raising some capital during this period, growing the business,
but it was like a couple million here, a million there. Like it wasn't like one big round yet.
Yeah, it was not one big round. It was like we kept because it was a hard story because we kept pivoting around, and like we were not.
I'm assuming it wasn't really hot. Like Web3 became a thing, like you said later. There was just Bitcoin.
2020s, yeah. It was not a hot thing, and then also. It was just super early. Everything we wanted to do wasn't proven out by the market. Like we were extremely early on the Bitcoin wallet stuff. We were extremely early on the Bitcoin payment processing. Like the widget was extremely early. Like, and it did. Yeah, it took the good thing that we did was like we just built infrastructure though. Throughout the years, like at every point and every pivot, there's more and more infrastructure that we kept building, more regulatory infrastructure, more banking infrastructure, more FX infrastructure, liquidity. So by the time we were ready, like our business grew, like we were able to like capitalize on a lot of that growth. We just didn't die. Like literally, we just didn't die. Like there's so many opportunities that we could have like just hung up the jacket, the hat, and go like, all right, this is it. Like there was so
yeah, for some. I mean, there was never nothing. Like you had pull along the way, but there was always these problems, right? It was never like this is the thing that's going to get to 100 million. And at any given one of those pivots, the other choice is just, okay, shut it down. Let's either go back to work or start something completely new.
Yeah, it's like weird fit, product market fit. Like we have like instances of product market fit, but the market just wasn't big enough. Like the people that wanted to use it, but like the market, there weren't just a lot of people to do it. And so like we knew there was some, it's like we kept getting pulled and they were like, hey, there's something here, but it's just like no one knows anything about Bitcoin or no one knows anything about crypto. It's like the market wasn't there yet.
And I think it's also, the other thing that I'm noting, and I think only in hindsight can you see this, is like you were enabling things that were a bit like moment in time. Like, okay, nobody's allowing you to buy Bitcoin, but some people want to do it. So here's this thing. But obviously, kind of you figure out at some point the merchants themselves will allow it. And then the API piece with the ATMs especially is like, okay, nobody knows how to buy Bitcoins. So you have all these ATMs. So like nowadays, there's so many ways to buy Bitcoins. People bypass, I'm sure there's some ATM businesses still there, but like it's not the core way people are buying Bitcoin anymore. So like that changes. The cross-border one, that's a real thing. Like that's not going anywhere anytime
Yeah,
soon.
that was a real thing, and we went all in to the point where we actually just took Bitcoin and crypto out of our branding. Like, so when you went to Wyre's websites, like it was just like, oh, we are the faster way and cheaper way to actually transfer money from these jurisdictions. Because like we built sales teams, we grew the company, like we raised around. We're like, hey, this is on Bitcoin Rails. Like we're using like crypto Rails to actually transfer money, and it's a new FX pool. And we could like save people a lot of money on their FXing, on their FX. And we built like boiler rooms of sales teams where they would like call merchants every day. It's like, hey, do you want to save 10% on your FX? It's like, can you test out a payment? And like, it was like very boiler room, like FX teams that were growing. But we had a nice API in the dashboard, and that did really well. And
And did
while
the
that was,
economics work? Because like, Bitcoin, like I don't know what the liquidity was like. Like there's still fees associated with buying and selling Bitcoin, no?
there's still fees, but it was cheaper than kind of like the spread
The
and
traditional
like the
course.
fees that you have. So that was one thing. Just overall, it's cheaper. And it was also, it worked really well for specific payment flows. So if you're like trying to send $100 to like freelancers or marketplaces, like or Airbnb hosts, if you're trying to send like a few $100s, like the percentage of fees of the fixed fee that these platforms have, it just doesn't make sense. Like they're charging, it ends up being, people are charging like 20% or something like that on fees. So it's just like, it gets really insane. So there were like really, really good flows for crypto. And still today there are, that market hasn't gone anywhere. But it was still early. Like we had to convince people like, hey, we're this like regulated institution that has a new way of transferring money. And then they dig into the flow and they're like, okay, you guys are using Bitcoin. And it's like, I don't know if we're comfortable with this. And we're like, yeah, but we can like do other things. But we were just using crypto on its rails. Like, so it was just like a hard sell. Like it was a very, very hard sell. But it wasn't an impossible thing. The company grew over the next 2 years from 2016 to 2018. We just like focused on that, and we as the company grew, the crypto market started getting big as well, and we still had all our APIs, right? So we still had all these APIs, dashboard, like all the infrastructure that you can use. It's basically like a Mercury bank account, right? Where you can like host money in there. You can actually use our APIs. So in 2018, like we started noticing that a lot of like crypto developers were coming back onto the platform and using us as their main bank account. Because all these crypto developers couldn't get bank accounts. We were like the spot where you can go. We'd give you like a way that you could deposit money into your account. We'll give you a routing number, account number. You can hold your crypto in there. You can hold your fiat in there. And then people use the API to actually manage the money between their apps. And then like their entire crypto business would work.
So this is now the world of, it's not just like, it was ATMs, like simple stuff that was building on wallets. Now you've got developers that want to build apps, leveraging something related to Web3 and crypto, and they still need a wallet and API. And this is where your old product kind of makes sense for them again.
Yeah. And then at that point, Mike and I were like, okay, let's look at where we are right now. We are doing well with the money transfer business, right? Like this is like business. People are using the API for it, like cross-border payments. People are doing extremely well. It's doing well. But we looked at it and it's like, okay, this is a traditional business. So raise the bottom. Like we need to raise like $100 million to start competing with TransferWise. Like we need to build like orders of magnitude a larger team to even like there's a lot of marketing dollars required to actually build an FX business and like a whole money transfer business. It's a long path. And we're like, all right, do we have a good shot at this? Like, and I think we did have a good shot. And I was like more on the fence actually keeping that business. Like we had a big board meeting in 2018. And I was like, why are we, this is working. Like, why are we like, we noticed this trend happening inside our company with like all these developers on crypto. And Mike was like super gun ho. He's like, this is going to be the future. Like, we need to be doing everything that we can be doing to like support all these developers and with their businesses in crypto. And I was like, I like this business. It's like really like, we know everything about it. There's like a path to it. We could easily raise for this. Like, and I think at the end of that board meeting, we came to the decision that we're going all in on crypto, and like really focusing on this, like back into our roots in crypto, supporting all these crypto developers with their APIs. And just being honest, I was not for that. It turned out to be the right decision. I think both decisions could have worked out well, but I think it was like a good decision that we went that path. But we had a really hard conversation, and it was hard to. We ended up taking our entire book of business of like our money transfer, and then we sold it to World First, which was like a money transfer company. There's like a bunch of articles on this, but we ended up selling that book of business to them, and then we just went all in on how do we enable these crypto apps to accept buy big crypto and use the apps? How do we enable like Web3 developers to have bank accounts and be able to interact with money and crypto? And that would like that set us up for, it took us like from 2012 to 2018 to find out what the business is going to be. And then
at that point, the timing couldn't have been better. Like, obviously you didn't know what was going to happen, but 2019 to 2021 was to have an infrastructure that people could build Web3 apps on. I mean, you can't ask for a better time than that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, it was the right call. Mike made an incredible decision. He saw like he knew a lot about Ethereum, was like an early investor in Ethereum, knew how like dApps were going to develop all these applications built on like Web3. We're going to develop over time. And he's like, all these people are going to have problems buying, like no one's going to like want to go to Coinbase and then use the app afterwards. Like, so we were like, hey, we have the infrastructure. We could take cards and like actually connect to smart contracts and like send crypto into the smart contracts, let people buy NFTs. So he just had an incredible foresight on that. And we built our first widget. So we had the widget that enabled developers to accept funds into the Web3 app. And now we wrote a blog post on this and we called it On-Ramp. And we were like the first On-Ramp widget. And today that's a whole category, but we were like the first people that coined that term back in 2018. And so that was our checkout widget. And then we saw our API, and that was our product that we grew for the next couple of years.
And walk me through like, what did that, maybe next year, like we won't go through all the years, but just like, what was that like post 2018, post that decision, you get rid of the other stuff, you sell it off, you go all in on this infrastructure play. How quick is that pull? Like, what does that end up looking like?
It was insane. We went from maybe like a few million in revenue to doing like 50 million in revenue within like 2 or 3 months.
2 to 3 months?
Yeah, 2 to 3 months. Like
in 2019, or did it take a little bit to launch it?
It took a little bit to launch it. We raised our Series B under this, and Terra came in, and we had crypto investors come in on that. It took us a little bit of time to pivot out. There was a lot of company morale that we had to navigate because a lot of people were like, whoa, what just happened in the company? We're just like doing this money transfer stuff. We wanted to scale.
How many people were you when you make that?
We were doing we did the money transfer stuff. We were like 60 people. 60 people.
It's a good amount of people. Like pivoting at that level is not that easy.
It's not that easy. And we sold off that entire business. So we were like, all right, we need maybe 20 to 30 people right now. So we had to like scale back massively, and not because like we didn't have cash. It was more so like the company just didn't need to be at that size to like take a big bet on like this crypto checkout widget. But there was a lot of morale. Like I remember that just being a really, really tough time. Not just for myself, like my co-founder. There was like that 2018 to 2019 time period was really, really tough. We were getting merchants, like no one had the solution. So we were getting like OpenSea, we were getting like all these like huge platforms that were literally doing $0 a day in volume. We were like, hey, do you want this way where people can like use your product to like, OpenSea and like all these like huge merchants, right? And they're like, yeah, we would love it. And, everyone's integrating the product. And then
so
we go along with
that
them.
50 million, like that 50 million revenue, is that 2020, like post-COVID when this stuff really took off, or is that before?
It was like it happened late, early 2020, like early 2020. Yeah. So we got merchants like starting to like integrating in 2019 and like really positioning the checkout widget, launching that in 2019. And then early 2020, my co-founder got burnt out and he left the company. And I took over as CEO. Um, and the only thing I did was like, all right, we just need to focus on this. Like, we're just going to do this is working. Let's just focus on the checkout widget. Like, merchants are starting to blow up. Like, we don't need to do much else. And that's all we did. But it mid 2020 was like really, really humming. The business was like really growing and scaling.
So let's fast forward a little bit, because I think we got through a lot of the, like, how do I call it? Like, it's those like knife fights, you know what I mean? That get you through the first few years. He's just like literally like blindfolded, like in the dirt, trying to find where the gold is, right? And like you found it. You grow, exceptionally fast to 50. You keep growing, obviously, over the next year or two, or year or so, to like 90. It's huge numbers. And then Bolt comes in. Like, walk me through like the acquisition piece. Like, where did that come from? And then we can go through that. I mean, most anything, dude, I'm curious on the emotional valence of all of it, because again, like, I've gone through it, but it's one thing with my numbers and it's a totally different thing with your numbers. So we get to dive into it.
Bolt was an interesting thing. So by the end of 2021, we had a really, really nice API. Like, we had a beautiful API that people were using, building crypto applications. And we were kind of like a Stripe for crypto, right? So if you wanted to build inside crypto, we had a SaaS-based API where you could like build infrastructure inside crypto. And then we had our checkout widget, which enabled like any crypto wallet to accept crypto without needing to go and get licenses and integrations with all these payment methods. So those are our two products. And Bolt came along. We weren't looking to sell. We were raising our Series C, and that was like fairly going well. We had like large investors like BlackRock come in on our that round, but we were raising our Series C. And during that conversation, we Ryan Breslow, the founder of Bolt, came and he's like, "Hey, I think there's like a massive opportunity here where we can add crypto as a means." Well, his first idea was like, we can enable a whole NFT marketplace within Bolt, one-click checkout, NFTs. This is going to be huge. And I was not bought into this vision. Like, he had this like vision of like NFTs, like one-click NFTs type situation. They could get OpenSea. It was like, I think that was like the first conversation. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, we're not interested. And then he like kept having conversations with Maju and Ryan. And I came to the realization that their biggest value prop was that they had hundreds of thousands of merchants on the platform. And the thing that they were missing was wallet infrastructure to get the consumers to actually put them in a consumer, and then an API to get developers, which is like infrastructure that we had. So, they had hundreds of thousands of merchants, which is the hardest thing to do. Like, getting hundreds of thousands of merchants is not easy. Merchants are harder to get than consumers in any business. But they had that figured out. And I'm like, okay, cool. We'll bring the developers and build you guys an API. And then we'll add the wallet. And then everything can be built on top of stablecoins in 2021. And we have a real shot at actually creating a new PayPal type business, like a bigger PayPal, like in payment rails, where you can like pay out using stablecoins. It's like a new way to actually operate. And I thought that Wyre plus Bolt vision was like a $10 billion opportunity. It was like a way larger than what the acquisition price would be for where the company could have been $100+ billion business. Like, it's like I saw like a 10x from where we were together on building that entire payment ecosystem. We're creating a new PayPal. And I saw that vision. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I'm not going to just sell here. We should just sell here. I see this vision where we could take Wyre into like a whole new thing and like really build a massive business. And I saw that, and then we got interested, and we got the deal. And during the whole process, like, we sold at the top of market, so we got an excellent price on that. We sold at the top, and then like Luna Terra situation happened. Then you had FTX like
if you say you sold at the top, like you agreed to terms, because there is an article and it says $1.5 billion. So like, it was agreed to and kind of announced, and I guess entering diligence.
Yeah, so we signed a definitive agreement. So we actually sold the company. So we sold the company. And then there was like kind of like your period where you need to like integrate, right? Like you have like this like period where you integrate and you have like closing conditions on the deal. Like everyone has this sort of like
Okay, so you signed the thing, but you hadn't met the close. It's not like the money got transferred, money got wired and then pulled back. It's just like you signed the PO, and then you were in that closing phase where some things need to happen.
yeah, it's and basically you always find a definitive agreement, and then you have closing conditions that usually take like a year. Like we had to transfer our licenses over to them and meet all these closing conditions, and then we had a closing. There's like some period that we had for a closing period, and then they backed up the deal like on closing date. Like it was like a lot of things happened in between there. Crypto went from it just didn't become as hot as it was early on. It was, I think there was, I'm not going to go into specific details, but there are a lot of stuff happening in their organization as well. But they just backed out on closing date. And that left us in a really tough spot. We didn't close enough money in Series C because we thought that this deal was going to go through, and we only closed enough capital that we needed, and we tried turning the company around after that, and it was super hard.
And your own revenues, I assume, would have fallen too, just because the volume of crypto activity contracted.
Yeah, I think we went down to like 30 million at that point, which is still healthy now.
Right.
Yeah. So and that was like is similar to the pullback that happened as well in the market.
Yeah, exactly. And what happens like to your existing investors? Was it just like at that point everybody's panicking and so nobody wants to kind of save the company and just come in with, okay, fine, you do these layoffs, but here's 10, 20, 30 million and kind of right the ship?
Yeah, there's like a lot of hard conversations that happen. So we did receive we did receive kind of like a lifeline right after that because we were running out of cash immediately when the deal was supposed to close. So we did receive a lifeline right after that, and then we had a couple months to basically restructure the company and like get back on track to focus on like, hey, we're like going to be growing and stuff like that. And then we just couldn't. We went out to raise another round around December time period, and I couldn't get that deal across the line. And December, and then that quickly moved to like a fire sale situation. So it was like kind of like a situation where it was like we wanted to fundraise. If we would have had like maybe 2 months more left of runway, we could have probably gotten the deal across the line. But then like everyone started panicking, and all the investors were like, all right, we need to fire sell this business, and pushing us to do different decisions. And yeah, we ended up fire selling the company in the beginning of 2022.
So I have to ask like the question, like my top of my questions is now it's not business at all. It's purely like, psychological, emotional, whatever. Like, but being honest, like, I mean, this is the thing, man. Like, the highs are highs, the lows are lows. Like, it's hard to find anything that has more volatility than a startup where you can go from, I'm worth like a few $100 million are going to come into my account in a matter of a month or so to my company's worth, zero or close to zero. Like that happens in 4 months. You know what I mean? Like it's not, I mean, humans aren't built for that. Like we're not built for, for expectations to change that dramatically. So and especially now, like with benefit of hindsight, like thinking back or whatever, like how do you get through that? Or like, what does that even feel like, in the moment? How do you even just keep fighting, whatever, like where were you at?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough because like I basically parted ways with the company as soon as we did that fire sale. It wasn't like a zero deal, but it was somewhat of a deal. Some investors got paid back. I don't actually know the details of that, but I basically like as soon as I parted ways and like stepped into like a board executive role, basically a non-role in the company, it was like it was tough. It was like a really tough experience for the next like 2 to 3 months, just because you kind of get alienated and you kind of blame yourself that everything happened because you just kind of like take the whole fault and responsibility. So like it was a very tough thing, but dude, I have a great support system. Like I have a great partner, I have great friends. And then you start building and the thing that really pulled me through is like, my partner was like, you should just like reach out to like some founders and like start like offering feedback or like advice to them. I'm like, what? No one wants to hear from me. Like I don't know anything. Like, And she like really pushed me to do this. And I posted in the YC channel. I'm like, hey, like I've done some stuff in the past, like just like this so sad message. I read it now. I'm like, I feel so weak just writing that. I'm like, hey, I've done some stuff like I might know some stuff on like payments and like crypto. And I got like a bunch of people just reach out to me and like, yeah, we want to chat to you. And I'm like, and the first conversation I had was like just an instant game changer to me, where it's like, holy shit, I've like learned a lot in just doing this business. Like chatting to some people that were like building similar businesses to Wyre at some point, and like I was just giving them game plans, and like them sending me like Bible thank you messages, being like, dude, you just saved us like years of just like, there's like, I've been through the ringer, and I'm just like, this is how you get banking partnerships. This is what you need to do to like get licensing. This is how you should structure your business. This is what you should think about building flywheels. Like, just like I've been through the ringer, and this is what
you did. I mean, you did it. Like the difference between you and $100 million is like a month, man. It's not even like literally it is a macro event. And if if that deal got inked in Q1, it probably closes. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have like $300 to $400 million in the bank.
I don't mean to keep bringing it back up. You might have just not been thinking, and I just keep bringing it back up. So my bad, dude.
I was like, the money was nice, but like I was really, really excited. I mean, about the Bolt Wyre. And then now you look at Stripe Bridge. Well, that deal came through $1.1 billion, and Bridge has 10% of the infrastructure. Bridge is the same company as Wyre, but has 10% of the infrastructure that we had. So you see deals like that come to life and be like, hey, this is like the vision that we were pushing for. And 1.5 was actually a really cheap deal for, we probably should have asked for more on that. We just didn't find the right buyer. Like we weren't looking to sell.
Zach is coming on the podcast soon, by the way. So we'll get.
Oh, he's awesome.
Insights. Yeah. It's gonna be sweet.
Dude, great. I mean, they were also like a month away from like not quitting their business. Like they weren't doing well during this. They almost didn't pull through the bear market. But Wyre went under. Prime Trust went under. There's like a few other like of these like vendors, like the crypto as a service stack, and then all the business just went to them, and they just like pulled through, which is really cool. So it was actually an awesome guy. Tell him said hi. But yeah, they're basically they're the Wyre story, but that actually completed, which is really cool.
That made it through. Yeah, that's epic, man. Well, dude, I must say, and now, like for full disclosure, like we're very proud investors in your new startup in Axel, which takes like like, but I'll say to you, like, because I don't know that I've said it, like, frankly, when we met and you took me through, probably the first 5 minutes of, let's say, your pitch or whatever, or the Wyre story, and honestly, I just said to myself, like, man, if somebody can go through that amount of high and then low and then decide to go back in, I'm in. Like, I'm just in. I don't like. I think what you're doing makes tons of sense. AI is just for compliance. Obviously, it's also a space that and understand, and all that stuff I think matters tremendously. Like if you'd come and said, I don't know, I'm doing something that has nothing to do with anything I ever learned, maybe I'd think about it twice. But frankly, for me, it's like this is so much about the DNA of people and like who people are and what they're willing. And I don't know that I'm a person, like I'm on the other side, partially because of that reason. Like I'm not sure that I would take those punches to the face and like continue to move forward, right? But you are. And so for me, it's just that's the defining thing. Like some of them they're gonna work, some of them are not gonna work. But there's people like you who I think are just builders. And now, like obviously there's a decade worth of like experience and knowledge, and especially within fintech. But yeah, like for me, it's just I don't know what the word is. I guess inspirational or something like that. You know what I mean? That you're willing to do it again and see it through. And it's freaking awesome, man.
I appreciate that. And it's been incredible. Like this time around, like we being able to like partner with different investors as well, like being like having those relationships. Like Pablo, I really appreciate the relationship we have. So it's been awesome, like working with incredible investors here. I think there's just like, after chatting to a lot of those founders and like building my confidence almost immediately, I was like, holy shit, I've learned a lot. I was like, I just couldn't think of anything else I wanted to do. I'm like, I went down the VC route. Like I went down started thinking about, do I become like an EIR or something like that? And I was just like, why would I do anything else? Like I literally like don't know how to, I don't know how to do anything else. I love building companies. I love like getting products out to individuals. And I love the whole art of like building a company. It's just like such a beautiful thing. And and solving problems that people really care about. Like I really care about that a lot. So
I love that. And for me, almost the problem, like you have to know who you are. You know what I mean? Like you can't fake it. Like I think if you try to be a VC, you'd be bored to death. And also I think you would feel you'd want to do it, man. Like you're the type of person I think you'd want to do it. And I don't mind not doing it. And I don't know that I could, you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to know who you are and you can't, especially founder, man. Like I think there's a lot of things you can game. Like that's another thing that I remember someone telling me. Like, you can game a lot of things in life. Like you could probably join a big company, move through the ranks by never really being great, but like finding ways to politic your way. Dude, you can't game getting to product market fit. You have to go through the knife fight. And so like, there's no point in faking it. Like you got to know who you are and you got to know if that's what you want to do. And if you do, it's freaking awesome.
oh yeah, you can't fake that. There, you've been that's awesome.
Cool, man. Well, dude, thanks for jumping on the show. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much, Pablo. This is incredible. Thank you.
So guess what? I met this founder who listened to every single episode of the Product Market Fit Show. He just called me and he sold his company for over $1 billion. That's right. If you listen to every episode of the Product Market Fit Show, that's what's going to happen. I can't say it's guaranteed, but it's what I've seen. It's what I've seen in the past, but you won't know for sure unless you try it out for yourself. So go back because there's over 100 episodes of the Product Market Fit Show and you haven't listened to most of them. Check them out.